Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. It's time once again for another Paizo preview, and this time out, we're going to be looking at the releases which are arriving on the scene from Paizo Inc. on October 30th. And I will point out, it is a big month ahead. So we're going to try to zoom through this video as best we can, but there are 6 big releases from Paizo Inc. And let's kick off by taking a look at the Pathfinder Flip-Mat Haunted Battlefield. Now, this does carry an MSRP of $19.99. You'll be able to get it in PDF for $9.99. So let's take a look at the Flip-Mat. Let's get the shrink wrap off here. And of course, before we jump on into all these goodies, I do want to once again remind you that my friends over at Paizo Inc. were kind enough to provide me with all of these review copies. Please keep in mind, neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this video with you. It's important you know these things. I'll also mention we're taking a look at a couple of adventures this month. So if you're a player, you have been warned, even though I don't know anything outside of some of the sell sheet information about these adventures. There are going to be some spoilers simply as we take a quick page through. All right, all that said, let's take a look at the Haunted Battlefield. Of course, as I always point out, this Flip-Mat is treated, so it is dual-sided, and you'll be able to use dry erase, wet erase, as well as permanent marker, and still be able to wipe this Flip-Mat clean. And we've got 2 sides here. So we've got the Haunted Battlefield. So this looks as if this is a hilltop with some standing stones. Looks like we've got some runes on those. And then on this side, it's like we have an area that's burning. So it is a battlefield. Don't know how haunted it might be. It's like we've got a siege engine down here. And of course, if you happen to be into skirmish level miniatures games, these work very nicely for those as well. So there is our Haunted Battlefield Flip-Mat. Next up, we'll be taking a look at the Pathfinder Arcane Spell cards. These will carry an MSRP of $32.99. You'll be able to grab them in PDF if you'd like for $14.99. And as I always mention, these are really handy, especially for game masters out there, because what you can do is you can hand these spell cards out to your players, and then that way you can kind of offload all the heavy lifting as far as the knowledge of all the spells needs to go. So this way, as a game master, you can just have an idea of what the spell does and leave the responsibility of exactly what the spell does to your players, kind of offload some of that to them. I'm not going to look at each and every card, of course, in these 2 large decks, but I do want to give you an idea. So as far as the instructions says, these reference cards include all spells from Pathfinder Player Core and Pathfinder Player Core 2. Keep in mind, these are for the Remastered edition. So it's important to remember that. It says the full text for each spell is provided whenever possible, though some longer or more complex spells have been abbreviated and include a page reference for the full spell description. Of course, it then tells you if you want to find out the full rules for the spells, you can do so on page 297 of the Player Core. All right, so taking a peek here. So as an example, Detect Magic, which is a cantrip. So the artwork on the back is all going to be the same, but I'm going to lay some of these out here, give you an idea of what we're taking a peek at. So it's going to have all of our tags, our keywords there. It's going to tell us how many actions that these spells will take as far as the Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster action economy goes. So as you can see, lots of these here, and they are grouped by the level. So here I can see that we've got the cantrips. We've got 1, 2, noise blast. A cacophonous noise blasts out, dealing 2d10 sonic damage. Each creature must attempt a fortitude save. And then, depending on what their save is, that's what we'll see there. So, very nice. We also do have another deck. I'm going to put these back into the box here. So this looks like this is the largest of the two decks. Well, it's obvious this is the largest of the two decks, but I think this is actually going to be the largest of all the decks here. So we've got that. Next up, we've got the Primal Spell cards. Yes. So we've got the various different Primal Spells that are going to be available. This carries an MSRP of $27.99. And you'll be able to grab the PDF for $14.99. And as I mentioned, this is a smaller deck. Channel the power of storms and wild creatures with the Pathfinder Remastered Primal Spell cards. This accessory is a comprehensive collection of the Primal Spells presented in Pathfinder Player Core and Player Core 2, featuring over 200 handy reference cards. So if you have players out there who both have a spell in their repertoire, you can, of course, leave this spell card for them out on the table so they can reference that whenever they would like. Caustic Blast, Electric Arc, Know the Way. So the cantrip, in your mind's eye, you magically reorient yourself. You immediately know which direction is north if it exists in your current location. You can choose a location you were at within the last 24 hours and learn what direction it lies. Another example here, Air Bubble. A bubble of pure air appears around the target's head, allowing it to breathe normally. The effect ends as soon as the target returns to an environment where it can breathe normally. So here we've got those. I'll open this pack up while I'm here. We'll take a look at another spell. Looks like these are probably the higher levels, right? Let's take a higher level spell. There we go, 7. A powerful globe of searing sunlight explodes in the area. This is Sunburst. Dealing 8d10 fire damage to all creatures in the area, plus an additional 8d10 vitality damage to undead creatures. Each creature in the area must attempt a reflex save. Yes, powerful, powerful stuff there. Okay, so I'm going to put these all back into here. And we're going to be taking a peek at the first chapter of the new Triumph of the Tusk Adventure Path. Yes, it is Pathfinder Adventure Path number 207, The Resurrection Flood. This is written by Brian Duckwitz with John Compton. Carries an MSRP of $29.99. You'll be able to grab the PDF for $19.99. So let's take a look at the back here. A storm is brewing. The Triumph of the Tusk Adventure Path begins with an eclectic band of dignitaries becoming battle-hardened survivalists, fighting for the orcs' homeland and independence. This volume includes an overview of orc culture, an exploration of the Flood Truce tradition, new magical items, and fearsome creatures that wander the wilds. The Resurrection Flood is an orc-focused Pathfinder adventure for 4 third-level characters. I'm a little surprised by that. I would have thought, seeing that I understand that the player characters are going to be taking on the roles of orcs. You would have started off at first level. So here you can either jump in, create third level characters, or as a game master, put together a low level adventure to get your player characters started off. Like I said, little surprise, we're starting off at third level. So let's jump on in. I'm not going to take a real deep dive into this. I will mention that Sammy Uhas will have a review of Triumph of the Tusk, the Resurrection Flood very shortly over on thegaminggang.com. We're going to get a campaign overview. And of course, keep in mind, I am going to mispronounce a lot of fictional fantasy locations and people and such as I take a peek. When Tar-Baphon, an incredibly powerful lich known as the Whispering Tyrant, escaped his prison only a few short years ago, the orcs of Belkzen knew he would try to conscript them for his wars of conquest, much as he had millennia before. Whether past orcs had served willingly or not is irrelevant today. Through his callous treatment of orc soldiers over generations of warfare, Tar-Baphon eradicated much of Belkzen's population, traditions, and history. At least one lesson survived, etched deeply in orcs' minds. The Whispering Tyrant cannot be trusted. So the third level player characters are low-ranking representatives from across Golarion, acting as dignitaries for nations, corporations, factions, with their own freelance interests. Aha, so maybe I was incorrect. The player characters don't necessarily have to be orcs or half orcs. Okay, that's cool. Although, I mean, it'd been fine. Be something really different. I will say that as far as a brand new adventure path, I think it's pretty interesting that we are looking at having an orc centric adventure path. That's pretty cool. So we've got chapter 1, Torrent Moot. Though the orcs of Belkzen aren't known for getting along with each other, much less outsiders, there's one notable exception to the stereotype: the flood truce. Each year, from late spring to early summer, the collected snow and ice in the Tusk Mountains rapidly melts. Flash floods flow down the mountains in arroyos onto the flood road, temporarily turning it into a riverbed. The sudden influx of water leads to explosive plant growth, which draws the orcs from their wintering grounds into the now verdant area. Nice. They're vital to the survival of the Belkzen orcs. They serve as a primary source of meat and hides. The orcs of Belkzen refer to this annual phenomenon simply as the deluge. All right. So we're going to actually flip through, take a look at each of the chapters, kind of get a breakdown of each of the chapters. But of course, I am going to be skipping pages here. So it looks like this is broken up into 3 chapters. Our next chapter is Flood of Nightmares. Yes. 3 to 4 weeks after Torrent Moot begins, signs indicate that the deluge is imminent. Oryx sightings become more common. A variety of brute species that haven't been seen in the area before start to appear, and the air grows colder. You can time the start of this chapter however you like, ensuring your player characters have enough time to carry out the tasks they want to, and that they take advantage by obtaining goods from the many merchants gathered for the event. I think this is probably where the flood begins. I might take a guess that the flood is worse than it normally may be. It's a stab in the dark here. And then we get into chapter 3, Split Skull Siege. Only a few days after the Windgripper ambassador ordered Khazard, the devious leader of Cleft Head Hold, to pull his people back into their fortress and bar the gates. Despite its impressive size, Split Skull, the Cleft Head's fort, doesn't have enough supplies or space to accommodate more than a small portion of the hold. Khazard therefore made strategic choices to only select members who were particularly loyal to him or vital to the operation of the fort. By the time the caravan reaches the gates, Khazard and his chosen Clefthead orcs are entrenched in Split Skull. So are we going to have a big battle here? Maybe some negotiation to try to get the caravan inside the stronghold? Maybe not. So then we're going to get into information about the orcs of Belkzen. Get a history, beliefs, relations, the Flood Truce. And of course, we're going to get into our adventure toolbox. There we go. So we've got new items. Have some new spells. No, we have a new archetype, though, the Tattooed Historian. It's like we had a couple of new feats. We're going to get into a bit of a bestiary here. And of course, we will have our major NPCs at the end of this. Kazad the Drover, cunning and narcissistic ruler of the Cleft Head Hold. Who else do we have here? Oh, that's the only NPC. Okay. The only major NPC, I should say. Normally, we'll see a couple. Looks interesting. Curiouser and curiouser. Very cool. So that is a peek inside the Resurrection Flood, which is the first chapter of the Triumph of the Tusk adventure path, which is kicking off this month. Next up, we're going to take a look at a source book that a lot of people are very excited about. This is something that people have been eagerly anticipating. And of course, I am talking about War of Immortals. This is written by James Case, Leanne Merciel, and Michael Sayer. This hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $67.49. Now, kind of an odd MSRP. Or you'll be able to grab the PDF for $19.99. So let's take a peek at War of Immortals. I have an understanding. I think this is going to give players an opportunity to play as sort of like demigods at some point. I know we've got a little bit of a meta plot line that is running through Pathfinder adventures right now with the death of a god, the murder of a god, I should say. So this ties into that very nicely. Go beyond legendary. A god has been slain and nothing will ever be the same again. As war and destruction spread across the world, new heroes must rise to the occasion and take up arms to protect its mortal inhabitants. Lay claim to your own spark of divinity and charge into battle as a mighty exemplar, or call upon the power of spiritual allies as a wise animist. Alongside these new classes are rules for running mythic games, archetypes for playing legendary characters, and a wide array of new items, spells, and monsters to tell stories straight out of myth. First thing I'm curious about is the page count. It's like, what, 222? Well, 224 if we count the ad at the back. So let's jump on in. Once again, we're not going to be looking at all the pages here, but I do want to give you a good idea for what's contained within War of Immortals. So we've got our introduction, legendary heroes, servants of power, myths and legends, paths to immortality, mythic vault, mythic monsters, and then we'll wrap up with a glossary and index. And it looks as if we have some variations on our Pathfinder heroes that we tend to see. That's kind of cool. I like that. Welcome to the War of Immortals. As the war god Gorum meets his glorious end in battle against the assassin god Achkek, his body is ripped in twain from within the depths of Gorum's armor. The corruption known as the Devourer springs forth, escaping into the distant stars while scattering Gorum's essence behind it. Gorum's divine power spills from his body in silver droplets, intermixed with red droplets of his war-infused blood and shards of his broken armor that fall like meteors across Golarion. So we've got some new heritages, new classes. So, I should say one new heritage, two new classes. So getting into the legendary heroes, that's kind of cool artwork there. So here's our animist. You are the interlocutor between the seen and unseen, the voice that connects the mortal and the spiritual, You bond with spirits, manifesting their distinct magic and allowing their knowledge to flow through you. Cool. So we've got different animistic practices. So it looks like you're going to have a choice between a liturgist, medium, seer, or a shaman. So you've got 4 choices there. Got a sample, some new spells, new feats. So then we get into the exemplar. As the war god died, his power reigned through the many planes of creation, sparking conflict and instilling divine energy in those previously without it. Whether you were directly touched by this power, claimed it from an ancient being or artifact, or whether it awoke something long dormant in your lineage, a spark of the divine now blazes within your soul, granting you abilities, sacred weapons, and divine signifiers that reach into the realm previously reserved for gods and legends. Nice. So we're going to get into our class features. We have some options here as far as the type of exemplar. Maybe not. So our new feats, we get our sample. So it looks like we do have some decent options here as far as, well, it's Pathfinder Second Edition Remaster, of course. There's going to be loads of options to customize your player character. That goes without saying. So it looks like we've got some new icons. And we got Servants of Power, which presents a variety of foundational options for playing the kind of characters who might find themselves involved willingly or unwillingly in the dealings and battles of immortal beings or the fallout thereof. So here we have the Nephilim. So that is our new ancestry, I do believe. Got some new archetypes. Yes, we do. Warrior of legend. It is said the greatest heroes are often stalked by an implacable doom, the shadow cast by the light of their deeds. Such warriors of legend often garner great reputations for their prowess and ferocity in battle, spawning legends of their invincibility. It looks like we're going to get into some myths and legends. So we are going to get into some history there. More feats. We've got a mythic gazetteer. Okay. It's going to be this information here. There we go. I was going to say, I wonder how many pages are devoted to that. Looks like not a ton. Then we have Paths to Immortality. This chapter presents a variety of mythic destinies, special archetypes for mythic characters of 12th level and higher. These archetypes all include 20th level capstone feats that present various forms of immortality. So we're going to have the Apocalypse Rider, Archfiend, Ascended Celestial, Beast Lord, Broken Chain, Eternal Legend, Godling, Prophesied Monarch, and Wild Spell. Okay. There's our Apocalypse Rider. It's a goblin there. Looks like this is packed with a lot of goodies. The Beast Lord, Broken Chain, Eternal Legend, the Godling, the Prophesied Monarch. There's our Wild Spell. And it appears that we've got 4 pages devoted to each. That's what it was looking like here. We got our Mythic Vault. I'm going to guess we've got some new goodies, some equipment, some gear, maybe some magic items. Storied equipment. There we go. Mythic artifacts, mythic spells. Once again, keeping in mind, these are all designed for level 12 and up. Mythic rituals. This is our bestiary. Yep, mythic monsters. Mythic monster templates. The mythic caster, mythic striker. And it looks as if we're going to get into some information about using the Demon Lord Velat in campaigns. That's what it looked like. See, talking about different campaigns here. Mythic deeds. The Immortal Trickster. And then utilizing them in your campaigns. This is kind of cool. So it's giving us some examples here. Sublime Breath. Well, I have to say that I am kind of surprised. I was thinking this was going to be a bit more like setting info, which it's not. It is gaming material, which is very cool. Like to see that. Not that I have a problem with things that people refer to as fluff. I like that. I like setting history and things like that. So here we've got our glossary, and then it's going to wrap up a look inside War of Immortals. Now, the final item we're going to be taking a look at is the Playtest Adventure for Starfinder Second Edition. That's right. We're going to take a peek at Empires Devoured, which is written by Thurston Hillman. It's going to carry an MSRP of $26.99, or you'll be able to grab the PDF for $19.99. Here we have it. Let's take a look at the back here. Who conquers the conquerors? A group of heroes from the Pact Worlds have arrived to witness the political event of the century. A treaty between the warlike Vesperium and the ruthless Aslanti Star Empire. The two galactic powers have agreed to coexist on a backwater world called Kataria, where both empires have established a base of operations. Hoping to avert future devastating wars between the superpowers, champions of the Pact Worlds attend the negotiations for the birth of a new interstellar alliance to partake in the first steps towards lasting peace in the galaxy. That is, until it all goes wrong. A treacherous political conspiracy threatens to subvert the planned treaty when a surprise invasion by a new power shakes the planet. An armada of Aslanti forces calling themselves the Sahedron Guard attack Kataria, targeting Aslanti forces on the ground, their Vesperium allies, and anyone else unlucky to get in their way. If the heroes can survive this orbital bombardment and help defeat the invaders, they will discover evidence of another plot. A plot not to gain territory or resources, but to destroy them. It's up to the heroes to save the galaxy or bear witness as it's devoured. All right, let's jump on in. So this is going to be broken up into 4 chapters. This is a standalone adventure. I want to say it's the second published Starfinder Second Edition playtest adventure. I think there are some others floating around in PDF, but this is, like I said, I think it's the second one. Once again, keep in mind, we'll have a review of this from Sammy Uhas in the not too distant future. So here we're talking about, yes, there we go, Cosmic Birthday, which Sammy has reviewed. That's the other published playtest adventures. Here's our introduction. So we've got Eve of Peace and War, Surviving the Storm, Conqueror's Ire, and Empires Devoured. We've got an advancement track. So it looks as if the player characters are going to start the adventure off at 10th level and run through about 13th. Cool. Welcome to Empires Devoured, the second module released as part of the official Starfinder Second Edition playtest. In this adventure, a group of 10th level heroes experience a major event that will come to define the setting in Starfinder's new edition. The event is the start of a war between two of the setting's most formidable powers. Spoilers! So now we know they're going to be at war. The Aslanti Star Empire and the Veskarium. At the start of this adventure, the player characters arrive on the eve of a notable peace treaty between the two galactic powers, only to watch as strife within one power leads to all-out war. But it gets worse. Nice. Okay, so going to give us a bit of background here. I do notice a jarring difference in the art style throughout, which is fine. I mean, come on. It's a playtest adventure. So we've got the various different scenes for the adventure here. Looks like we're actually going to start off with a good amount of combat right off the bat to just drop your characters into the action. So then we've got Chapter 2, Surviving the Storm. When the second chapter in this adventure begins, the player characters find themselves cut off from communication with everyone except their party. Though they'll learn more about the ongoing conflict as the chapter unfolds, the PCs must make the trek back to the settlement while enduring the repercussions of an orbital battle they know nothing about. The space war continues throughout this chapter as the vessels of the Sahedrin Guard begin a withering cascade of fire on the Red Clarion, which carries out defensive maneuvers in orbit under Xant's command. I guess Xant is an NPC that the characters will have met. So I wonder if a bunch of wreckage is falling through the atmosphere, causing problems for the player characters, maybe. So we've got our third chapter. I just jumped past it, it looks like. Yep, Conqueror's Ire. A conspiracy is brewed within the Adalway system since the start of the Drift Crisis event that put Atuity at the center of Aslanti Biscarium relations. One group of refugees who found safe harbor in the system was a band of nihilists who worshiped the apocalyptic deity known as the Devourer. Looks like that might be what the player characters experience. First time they bump heads with the Devourer. Looks like these chapters are pretty short, though. So we have Empires Devoured. It's the finale. The climax of this adventure follows the heroes making a breakaway flight out of Atuity and through the conflict between Sahedrin Guard and Veskarium fleets fighting for orbital control of Kataria. Unable to contact either side, the PCs fly to the distant solar observatory where the Heliacal Maw are performing their terrible ritual. Aha. So it looks as if the adventure itself is about 48 pages in length. We're going to get into our toolbox, which is going to give us our important NPCs. And that'll probably be all that we're getting, because keep in mind, it is a play test. Yep, that's what it looks like. Looks like we're getting some important NPCs. Looks like we had some stat blocks throughout the adventure as well. And then we're going to wrap up with our credits, as well as an ad for Starfinder Second Edition. Very nice, very nice. And the player core for Pathfinder Second Edition Remastered. So there we have Empires Devoured for the playtest edition of Starfinder Second Edition. Of course, once again, all of these items are landing in stores on October 30th. So, of course, you can order them from Paizo Inc., or you can go visit your favorite friendly local game store or go to your favorite online retailer, what have you. They are arriving October 30th. And as I mentioned previously, we will have reviews of War of Immortals, as well as the two adventures from Sammy Uhas over on thegaminggang.com. That's it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this Paizo preview, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.